Learn how to machine knit the perfect 1x1 mock ribbing. In this video, I introduce a new take on the classic version. This method eliminates the need for waist knitting and is so much neater than the classic version on both sides. Plus, near the end of the video, I include a special tip for tubing a hem. The first thing I'm going to do is pull out my needles. And I'm going to pull out 41 needles because I need an odd number of needles and I want a nice size swatch. Okay? Then I'm going to take my stopper from my garter bar set and put it on the needles because I want to stabilize the needles. My next step is to do the perfect latch tool cast on, which is in another video. So if you want more details on exactly how I do it, watch that other video. Now, I'm going to pull down my tension and just quickly go across the needles. By stabilizing the needles, I can do the latch tool cast on, or sometimes called a crochet cast on, relatively quickly. And I'm doing all the needles. A mock rib is usually, this is a 1-1 mock rib, and it is usually done with every other needle and waste yarn. But I'm going directly to my main color. I can bypass the whole step of using waist knitting. And I'm going to get a nice, neat, crisp finish on it. I'm getting over to the end, and when I get to the end, I'm going to take that loop and put it on the last needle. And I'm going to bring this yarn forward and between the first and second needle and under that end needle, and thread up and remove the needle stopper. Before I go any further, I have to do a couple more things. That's why I used an odd number, because I want to take these needles, every other needle, out of work. By doing so, I'm also dropping the stitch from it. So I have basically put a chain in between each one of the needles that remain in work position. Okay, so now I'm just going to take my cast on comb from my LK and put it in place. It's nice and firm. As for my carriage, it's set to knit in both directions. My main tension is 4, but for this very first row, I want to do 2 tensions higher. And when you do your swatching for this, depending on your yarn, you may only want to go 1 higher, but I'm going to go 2. And on the very first row, you want to carefully move across the row and make sure everything knit. It's very important. My carriage is now on the left. So the next thing I'm going to do is take my tension all the way down, main tension minus 2 full numbers. And I'm going to knit 8 rows. My row counter says 9 because I had my first row plus the 8 rows. Now my carriage is on the left because I began on those 8 rows on the left. So now I'm going to crank my tension up to main tension, which is 4, plus 2 full numbers, which is now 6. And I'm going to knit 1 row. My carriage is now on the right, and I'm going to turn my tension back down to 2, which is main tension minus 2. My row counter is 10 at this point, and now I'm going to knit 8 more rows. Now, just so I don't forget, I'm going to set my tension to 6, which is main tension plus 2 full numbers. But I have other things to do, so let's set that aside and let's focus on what we're doing on the needle bed. At this point, I'm going to pull up all those needles that I put in non-working position up to upper working position. The only reason I do it to upper working position is so that they stand out, so that I can see them easier, because those are the ones that I need to fill. I'm going to take my cast on comb off, and I want to zoom in on this. Now I'm right-handed, so I'm going to work from right to left. If you're left-handed, you may want to work from left to right. It doesn't really matter, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up the stitches that were in between the knit stitches. So here's a knit stitch, here's a knit stitch, here's a knit stitch. So I am going to pick up the ones that are in between them. The end one is here. Here's my first one right here. And I'm only going to pick up the back loop of it and put it on my needle. Now, once you get going, you will see that you can do it faster by you skip one and then get that one and get that one there. And just that way I can use my first eyelet here and my third eyelet there. And it just speeds it along. You can pick them up one at a time also. On this end, I'm doing the exact same thing. And then I'm getting down to the last stitch, and I'm just going to pick up that last stitch right there. I'm going to push my needles forward and my stitches back to the needle bed. Okay. My row counter says 18. I hung my weights. My stitch size is at 6, which is main tension plus 2, and I'm going to carefully knit one row. This is important to make sure everything knits off nicely and that there doesn't look like there's any issues. Oh, beautiful. Perfect. So now that was my big stitch. Now I can just return to my normal tension, which is the main tension, which is 4. And I'm going to pull these out just to help them along on this very first row. And now I'm just knitting my garment, or in this case, my swatch. This is what it looks like when it comes off the machine. You can see here is the edge where our turning row is, and what we need to do is pull it lengthwise like this. So if you're having any issues tubing it, which means pulling it lengthwise to set the stitches, you can always take a piece of ravel cord, thread up your bodkin or a darning needle, and get it through here. But you don't want to catch either of the sides at all. You just want to get right into the middle of that hem. There you go. So now all you have to do is hold the two ends of the ravel cord and pull it lengthwise. And that sets the stitches. After you've blocked it, you can take that ravel cord out. But do you see how nice that edge is up here, where it closes up any big holes, especially on 1x1 mock rib? Isn't that pretty? So you get a perfect tension. Now let's look at the inside. Look how absolutely neat that row is on the inside too. It's the perfect mock rib. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Please take a moment to subscribe and ring the bell to receive notifications of upcoming videos and events. Happy machine knitting!